This is a meat fork. Can you use it to flip a steak? Or will it ruin it? Let's find out.
Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
This is a meat fork. This is also a fork. And these are steaks. And these steaks need to be grilled on preferably a grill. Once you grilled one side, you want to flip them over and grill the other side. And then you're going to take this, flip it around. Or you're going to take this and flip it around. Or you're going to use one of these. Most people think that you shouldn't use this because this will stick holes in your steak and will make it leak, or even worse, will destroy it. Is that really the case, or is that an urban legend? Let's find out. And of course, I selected two beautiful steaks to do this experiment with. I have to admit, sorry, I did that for my own indulgence, not for the experiment. I could have just taken any steak, but you know I'll be eating these. So if we want to cook these, of course, then we need to fire up a barbecue. I'll be using the Napoleon Kettle Pro Grill because it's one of the best steak cookers there is. And the reason why is because it has a cast iron grill grate. All I need to do is open it up, take out the grill grate, put in some charcoal, light it up with a fire starter, and I'm good to go. Once the charcoal's lit, the grill grate goes on, the lid goes closed, and the top vent stays all the way open. And the bottom vent goes almost all the way closed, because the first step is smoking the steaks. To turn this into a real competition, I'm going to take this steak and only lift it, flip it, do whatever with it, only with this fork. And the other steak is only get lifted, flipped, whatever with it, using a tong. That way we're going to find out if there is a difference. The barbecue's up to temperature, so it's time to put in the steak. Are you ready for the hurt? We could still decide not to do this experiment. At this moment, nothing is lost. Hey, you're watching the PitmasterX show. Oh, did you feel that? Ooh, we're fine. Let's put the steak on. And of course, the way I always do it with my tong, let's put it on. And to cook the steaks, I'll be using the reverse sear method, and therefore I want to keep my eye on that temperature. So I'm going to stick in a thermometer just to make sure I got everything spot on. I'm going to keep an eye on these, and in the meantime I'm going to close the lid and let these come up to temperature. And then we wait. We could also drink beer. These are tomatillos, and well, they look like something you'd throw at someone. They're actually just green style tomatoes. They taste a little different, and they're used in one dish specifically, namely Mexican Salsa Verde. And I'm going to show you how to make it. I'm going to put them on the grill together with some jalapenos, a yellow onion, and some garlic. It's a good thing I was using my thermometer because somehow one of the steaks decided to throw a tantrum. It says 51 degrees Celsius. It's already done. We got to take it off. I'm not even done with my Salsa Verde. Ooh, it is number 2. Which one is that? It is the fork one. Okay, let's get it off. The fork steak now needs to rest a little bit so the temperature inside the steak will balance out, and then it's ready to be seared off. But after a few minutes my other steak was done too, so we let it rest together, and in the meantime I finished my Salsa Verde. The tomatillos went beautifully soft and all the ingredients were roasted, so it was time to peel them, put them in the blender, add some fresh cilantro, a little bit of salt, and then grind it up. Well, it smells freaking delicious, but what does it taste like? Oh, this is totally fresh. The tomatillos, they bring a little bit of acidity. The coriander or cilantro is real freshening, and the garlic is a little bit out there in the back. The jalapeno, well, it's okay. It's like a little friend on the side. It's time to set up the barbecue for some fierce heat so we can grill off those steaks. Load it up with some more charcoal and then give it a few minutes to get up to temperature. My Napoleon grill is now nice and hot. It's time to put the grill grates in, and I'm going to set them to a low position, which means I'm just gonna lower them all the way down, direct over the fire. Right, here we go. First I'm gonna grill the steak that I'm gonna use my meat fork with. I'm gonna give it a little bit of time to build up a crust, then I'm gonna move it around to work on that crust even more. I want as much Maillard effect on this steak as I possibly can have. Look at that beautiful crust we're building up. Starting to look good, this steak. Oh yeah, look at that. We got some sear marks. Wow. I keep making new holes, and I must say I do not really enjoy it. See, the thing is, look, and then see, I hit the grill grate, so I can't really like stick through it and like flip. So you're like stuck there, and then you have to rely on it being stuck there and stay there. It's not really something that works really well. So beside that, the fact that it hurts me mentally for sticking the meat, it's also not the most efficient tool. Oh, you can't tell me that, little. And as a matter of fact, look, you can't really see any marks anymore from sticking the meat. It kind of disappeared. Well, this is done anyway, let's get it off. Now it's time to grill the steak the old-fashioned way. Of course, there's an argument. You can say like, well, this is not very efficient either. It just requires a little bit of fiddling. You're right, it requires a little bit of fiddling too. Maybe I'm a bit biased. Maybe the fork does really work well. And again, a beautiful looking steak, well seared, good amount of meat artifacts. Looks pretty good to me. First thing that I'm gonna do when the steaks are on the board is season them with a little bit of salt. If you like it better to season your steaks up front, just be my guest. There we go. Let's compare these steaks with each other. And the obvious thing that we notice straight away is that the fork steak looks a little bit more messy than the steak that we handled with the tongue. Of course, I have to mention that I was a little rougher on that steak because I'm a bit biased. I must say that during the whole experiment, I found some feelings of resistance using the fork and sticking it all the time. It's just, it felt so wrong. It hurt my feelings. And I don't know why that is, because it doesn't really matter. Or does it? Ooh, if we try it and we taste it, maybe then we can taste the difference. First impression, looks pretty good to me. We got a beautiful crust. We got a nice pink juicy inside. So to me, this looks absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with this steak. Before we're going to take a closer look, let's also slice open the tongue handled steak. Wow, looks pretty good to me too. Nothing wrong with it, nice and juicy. And before I sink my teeth into this, we're gonna go a little more scientific, because I weighed both of the steaks up front and afterwards to see if there is a big difference. And we found that the steak handled by the tongue has lost less moisture than the steak that we handled with the fork. We found that the fork steak lost 105 grams of juices, and the tongue steak only lost 87 grams of juices. Therefore, you have to conclude that the fork steak is less juicy. Or is it? Because measuring is one thing, but can we taste the difference? It's my favorite part. I never rely on instruments solely. I always want to try myself. All right, tongue steak first. Pork steak first. Oh. Call me crazy, but one delicious steak is such a simple thing. A good steak, reverse sear, season after, cast iron grill grate, some little bit of charcoal, ridiculously good. Even if it lost more moisture, at this moment, I'm loving this steak. Now let's taste the tongue steak. Again, an amazing steak. Do I taste any difference? This steak is juicy, it is tasty, it has a beautiful crust, it's tender. It is everything you desire in a steak. And this steak is also juicy and tender, and is also something you desire in a steak. Can we conclude that the fork-handled steak is in worse shape and tastes less good than the tongue-handled steak? Oh man, I'm gonna do another taste test. Honestly, I can't tell the difference. I'm unable to tell that this was handled by a fork and this was handled by a tongue. And it kind of saddens me, because I would love to forget about the fork, because it hurts my feelings. And do you know what this thing is really for? Instead of using this for grilling, this is for carving. So normally if you would have a roast, you would stick your fork in it like that and then slice it, and it will prevent the meat from moving. So that's why you have this fork. That's the reason why they invented this fork. It's not for grilling actually, just so you know. We still need to do the salsa verde. Oh, of course I grilled up a couple of tortilla leaves while the grill was still hot, in which I'm gonna put a few red onions, 2 slices of steak, some of that salsa verde, a twig of cilantro, and that's how you make one of the most delicious steak tacos you've ever had. Wow, That is freaking awesome.